morning has broken, my windows are open. Wanna feel the wind blow through my hair. Which way do I follow? What happens tomorrow? I turn to you and hope you can guide the way. Sometimes I give up, just wanna be on my own. Even in the darkest times, you give me hope. So I lean on you when I've lost my way. I keep holding on for a better day. I lean on you when the world's astray. I left my heart open so you hear my prayer. I left my heart open so you hear my prayer. In times that are changing and when hope is fading, I know I can turn to your embrace. 'Cause there's so much beauty under your heaven, and I'm grateful every day. Sometimes I give up, just wanna be on my own. Even in the darkest times, you give me hope. So I lean on you when I've lost my way. I keep holding on for a better day. I lean on you when the world's astray. I left my heart open so you hear my prayer. I left my heart open so you hear my prayer. I lean on you and I've lost my way. I keep holding on for a better day. I lean on you when the world's astray. I left my heart open so you hear my prayer. I left my heart open so you hear my prayer.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We're going to be doing episode 6. In this episode, we're on Otis Ball Abner's case. We are hoping to cover the trooper testimony or transcript, KSP notes, and Jean Crawford's written statement and her testimony. There is a reason that I've chosen to do it in this order, and that reason is so you can see the difference in the stories that were told, because the way they actually were able to testify, they were spaced out. Like Trooper McKnight was one of the first people, and Jean Crawford was one of the last people. So keep that in mind when you listen to these transcripts, and also when you listen to KSP's notes. Just want to tell everybody thank you for showing up. Thanks, Cat Eyes, Nicole, Josh B, Flies on the Coleslaw. Thank you all. I appreciate y'all so much. Now, we've got a lot to cover tonight. So if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to jump right in. Reading the transcript, the first transcript that we're going to go through. Duchess is going to be reading Officer McKnight. Arctic is going to be reading Mr. Robinson. Duchess is also going to be reading the court. And Michelle is going to be reading Mr. Bingham. Keep in mind, Mr. Robinson is the attorney for Marlow Brock, and Mr. Bingham is the attorney, well, the Commonwealth attorney. And if you Can you all see that? Dutchie, can you see it?
Mhm.
You, Michelle, and Arctic?
I can see it. And you want me to read for Trooper McKnight also?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna see if I can remember all that. I have a lot.
The court and Trooper McKnight on these transcripts. And parentheses.
And parentheses. Okay. Okay, so we'll get started on this. And again, this is Trooper McKnight's transcripts. So we're going to start out with the court. Call your witnesses.
Your Honor, Commonwealth calls Trooper McKnight.
Trooper McKnight sworn.
Oh. Judge, before we get started on this witness, may Mr. Bingham and I approach?
Yes. At the bench, out of the hearing of the jury.
I'm sure Mr. Bingham is aware, but I just wanted to make it clear that Trooper McKnight shouldn't testify to anything that other people have told him about the case. Only testifies as to what he has personally seen.
Right. Hearsay. Right. Hearsay. Who's Mr. Robinson?
That's Arctic. I think he's having some internet trouble. No,
okay.
hearsay.
He is going to testify as to the various events that led him on in his investigation.
It's not to prove the fact of what he is asserting.
Right. Just to the events that led him on somewhere else in the investigation, things like that.
That he got the information that something happened and he investigated. That's all, right? But not anything he would intend to prove the fact. Further discussion at the bench off the record in open court.
I do wonder why they did not record that, because this is transcripts and we get everything else. So what was left out there?
Well, that's a good question.
Okay.
All right, and then it says Trooper Thomas McKnight, after first being duly sworn, testifies as follows. Direct examination by Mr. Bingham.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Thomas McKnight.
And Officer McKnight, what is your profession?
I'm sorry, sir?
What is your profession?
I'm a trooper with the Kentucky State Police.
How long have you been a trooper?
Approximately 11 years.
And as a Kentucky State Police officer, what are your duties?
I'm assigned to patrol Knox County, Harlan Post.
Have you been patrolling Knox County the whole 11 years that you've been a state trooper?
No, sir, I've not.
How long have you been in Knox County?
Off and on since March of 1980.
Were you called on September 10th, 1987, concerning a possible shooting in Knox County, Kentucky?
Yes, sir, I was.
And would you tell us the facts surrounding that?
Dispatcher notified me by radio that I had a phone call from an individual and wanted me to proceed to a phone so he could patch us together. I went to the RECC building and was patched with this individual.
Didn't hear that last.
I went to the RECC building and was patched with the individual that requested to talk to me.
Okay, who was that individual, if you know?
Charles Johnson.
And did he give you certain information that led you to a shooting that had occurred in Knox County?
Yes, sir, he did.
Where was this shooting supposed to have occurred?
Mr. Johnson advised me that possibly, in quotes, Ball Abner, they called him Ball Abner, was what I knew him as, was possibly shot and was possibly at the Nan Riley Cemetery, located in the Hammond's Fork area.
And did this prompt you to go to the cemetery?
Yes, sir. After I talked with Mr. Johnson and also with Robert Crawford, who was there at Charles Johnson's house, Trooper Barnett and I proceeded to the Nan Riley Cemetery.
And what did you find once you reached the cemetery?
I found a vehicle occupied by Otis Ball Abner, parked at the cemetery parking lot.
And had Mr. Abner been shot?
Yes, sir. He had a wound, what appeared to be a shotgun wound, to the left side of his head.
Would you tell us the facts or the area as you found it, where Mr. Abner was, and the details of the car?
The car was positioned heading downhill, about center ways of the parking lot. Mr. Abner was sitting behind the steering wheel on the driver's side. His left hand was on the steering wheel, lower part of the steering wheel. His head was laying on his right shoulder. He had what appeared to be a shotgun wound to the left temple, the temple area above the ear. He was clad in blue jeans, a blue button-up shirt, boots. He had a partially empty beer can between his legs. The driver's window was down. All the rest of the windows in the vehicle were up. Only door that I could get to open in the vehicle was the right rear, or the passenger side rear door.
Did you make any, or did you have any?
Okay, right there, I want to pause for a minute because I want everybody to take note that this officer says that, first of all, the only window down was the driver's side window, and that the only door that would open is the very door she goes out of. It's the back door.
Opinion at the time after seeing the victim of what kind of gun had been used to shoot him?
Yes, sir. Due to the wound, it appeared to have been a shotgun wound. I also observed a 20-gauge shotgun hole lying approximately 9 inches from the left rear tire of the vehicle.
From looking at the car and where the victim was positioned, could you tell approximately where the individual who had shot Mr. Abner would have been standing?
Yes, sir. I estimated Mr. Abner, had been shot at very close range, and the perpetrator had shot him standing by the driver's door. That was the estimation.
Okay. You testified about your opinion that it was a shotgun, fired from close range, where Mr. Abner was located, where, in relation to the car. Did you take photographs of the scene that night
Yes, sir.
on September the 10th?
Yes, sir, I did.
Do you have photographs of this particular aspect?
Yes, sir, I do.
Are they here?
Yes, sir, they are.
Where?
In the briefcase.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
I have here 2 photographs, Trooper. Can you identify those photographs as the photographs that you took that night?
Yes, sir, I can.
Does this depict the scene as you found it when you arrived at the cemetery?
Yes, sir. It depicts Mr. Abner. Yes, sir, it does.
That is the victim, Mr. Abner?
That is correct.
Your Honor, we would move to make these a part of evidence and mark them as exhibits and allow the jury to examine them.
Okay. We've heard the objections and the court passed on them. They may be introduced and the exhibits are marked.
Okay, and I'm going to show the photos that they are talking about here. Give me just
And on the
a
next page, it actually says that the jury is allowed to see the photographs. So that's a perfect segue
perfect
because
timing.
the perfect timing.
Okay, here is the shotgun shell that they say that he saw that night.
Mm-hmm.
These are the pictures that they are entering into as an exhibit right now. Now, that's not, this would be one of the pictures. Now, keep in mind that you just heard that his head was laying on his right shoulder. And I also want you to keep in mind of how clean this seat is, in my opinion. Take note of the ceiling and the back seat. That will be important later, and then I'll show this photo again.
Thanks for being here, everybody. Please hit the like button for Crystal and share this out.
Yes, I appreciate each and every one of you. The more you share it, the more it gets in the algorithm. And my sole goal is that, you know, if there's any truth to the internet is forever, then this will be here forever for people to know he did not get justice and see how this trial went.
Exactly.
Again, I thank you all.
Okay, so the jury was allowed to see the photographs.
Trooper McKnight, did you find any individuals at the cemetery other than the victim, Mr. Abner?
No, sir.
Did you find evidence that anyone had been there or that other vehicles had been there?
I found evidence that there had possibly been other people there.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that you found a shotgun shell.
That's correct.
And what type of shotgun shell was it? What gauge?
20 gauge.
20 gauge. Did you take that shotgun shell or confiscate it as evidence?
Yes, sir. I photographed it and measured it and confiscated it as evidence.
What did you do with that particular piece of evidence once you marked it and confiscated it?
It was later submitted to the Kentucky State Police Crime Lab at a later date.
After you found it then, did you keep it or did you take it to, say, the Harlan Post? And put it in the evidence room where it was locked?
No, I kept it at that time. It was kept for some time before it was taken. I believe I kept it in my possession. The evidence will indicate the chain of custody, but I believe I kept it in my possession until the time that I took it to the forensic lab.
Okay, thank you. Now, did you find anything else located at the scene that was of any significance to you or that you confiscated to be used later as far as to be sent to the crime lab, I guess is what I'm saying?
Yes, sir, I did.
Would you tell the jury what all you confiscated at that time?
I confiscated a Marlboro cigarette butt, a rolled cigarette, which appeared to have contained Prince Albert or something. It appeared to be a rolled cigarette. The beer can between Mr. Abner's legs, and also another partially full beer can laying in the parking lot area. I believe it was approximately 17 foot from the vehicle.
What happened after you finished your examination of the area and of the vehicle of the car? Did you at that time call the hospital or call the coroner?
Prior to taking this evidence into custody, the coroner had been contacted. He arrived during this time. Also, the ambulance service arrived. The coroner pronounced Mr. Abner dead. He was removed by the Knox County Ambulance Service. A wrecker removed the vehicle, and Trooper Barnett and I left the scene. We did return later in the morning hours after daylight, but we left at that time.
You said a while ago there was another trooper with you when you went up there. Who was that trooper?
Trooper Barnett.
Was he with you the whole time you were there?
That's correct.
Did he assist you in conducting your investigation of the scene?
That's correct.
After you finished your investigation, what did you do then? What was the next step that you and Officer Barnett took in investigating this crime?
We proceeded to Robert Crawford's residence to contact Gene Crawford at that point in time.
You contacted who?
Gene Crawford. To contact, when I had spoke with Mr. Johnson and Robert advised me his mom was with Ball Abner at the time he was shot.
Was Gene Crawford at Robert's residence?
Yes, sir.
Who else was there at the time?
Robert was there. Robert's wife, Betty, was there. And later, Jeff was there. Trooper Barnett and the coroner Garland was there later, too.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to talk with Mrs. Crawford? You said that she was at the scene, or you were told she was at the scene.
Yes, sir. I spoke with her at Robert's house.
And can you tell us how that affected your investigation?
Mrs. Crawford started out telling me that her and Ball had just been up at the cemetery, and someone that she didn't know or didn't see just walked up, just appeared, and shot Mr. Abner. And she fled out of the car and run off the hill and flagged down a vehicle after.
Judge, I'm going to have to object to whatever Miss Crawford has testified to. She's available.
Objection sustained. Miss Crawford will be a witness, will she not?
Yes, sir.
Well, she can tell those things, what she told the policeman, what she told him.
What happened after you talked to Gene Crawford and Robert Crawford at that particular time?
I determined that Marlow Brock had shot Mr. Abner.
Did you at that
Okay,
time?
pause.
Mm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's okay.
But explain to me what actual evidence that they had to make that determination other than a mom and her son saying somebody did it. Now, not just any mom and any son, the other two people that were on the cemetery. Inquiring minds would love to know.
Well, how, when she says that someone that she didn't see just appeared and shot him?
Exactly. I don't understand where, and I would also like to know, since they did leave the scene of the crime, did they tape it off? Whether they did or not, I couldn't tell you. I don't think they did, but I'm not going to speculate about that. But they do say they went back later, correct? Well, did they tape it off to where nobody else could get up there and mess with the crime scene?
Given
Well,
how
I
they've
think
handled
that
everything else about this case, I doubt they did.
oh, I agree, Artie.
exactly, Artie.
And it's a cemetery. They said, did it look like other people had been there? Well, I'm sure other people had been there. It's a
And
cemetery.
exactly. And another thing that I never did understand. We all know Kentucky's law that you can present 5 DNA evidence items. Why did they use Uncle Ball's beer can between his legs as one of those? Did they think he was sharing? There was plenty other up there that I'm sure could have been tested that would have been more proficient or effective DNA. Why did they use that can? They know it belonged to him. They've done got his blood type to match DNA to. So why take that can?
That's a good question.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't. Well, I needed to pause right there just a minute.
It's
If
okay.
you want to, Dutch, just start at the court again.
Okay. All right. Well, she can tell those things. What she told the policeman, what she told him.
What happened after you talked to Jean Crawford and Robert Crawford at that particular time?
I determined that Marlow Brock had shot Mr. Abner.
Did you, at that time, upon the information that you had obtained there, leave the residence and look for Mr. Brock?
After talking with a couple more subjects, I obtained an arrest warrant for Mr. Brock. Yes, sir.
You said you talked to several other subjects. Who would those subjects be?
Robert Crawford and Jeff Crawford.
Okay. Did you go to somewhere and find Mr. Brock, or did he come and turn himself in, or how did you contact him?
I went to Isaac Smith's residence in Girdler, just outside of Girdler, on 1304, where Mr. Brock was staying in a smokehouse with Isaac Smith's daughter, and I arrested Mr. Brock.
Okay. Was he there alone?
No, sir, he was not.
Who was there with him?
His wife, Mr. Smith's daughter.
From your investigation, could you make any kind of determination as to how long Mr. Brock had been there?
I have to object. The only way this could be determined is through other testimony.
Well, did you finish the question? What was your question?
I can restate that, Your Honor. I'll just withdraw that question.
Okay.
Did you, at that time, place the defendant under arrest?
Yes, sir.
And once you placed him under arrest, did you conduct any kind of investigation there?
Yes, sir, I did.
What type of investigation did you conduct?
I asked Mr. Brock for consent to search his vehicle and he gave verbal consent. I searched his passenger car.
Did you find anything in his vehicle?
Yes, sir, I did.
Would you tell the jury what you found?
In the front seat, I located a brown t-shirt. Also in the front floorboard area of the car, I located a Budweiser half case, empty half case carton that appeared. It had a yellow cigarette lighter in it and appeared to have blood stains on it. Also, in the right front floorboard, passenger side, I located what appeared to be cigarette particles that possibly matched the rolled cigarette that I located at the scene. In the back floorboard area on the driver's side, I located what appeared to be a full, empty full 16-ounce Budweiser case inside.
Just one thing. You said you found a beer case in the front of the car?
In the floorboard of the passenger side of the vehicle.
What type of beer case was that?
Budweiser.
And were there beers in it, did you say?
No, sir. It was empty.
No beers in it. Okay. Is this all the items that you found in the investigation?
No, sir. I located a pair of work pants inside the smokehouse where Mr. Brock was located that was identified by Mr. Brock and Mrs. Brock as possibly being the pants that he had on the night of the 10th.
Now, I want you to pay attention that right there it says that was identified by Mr. Brock and Mrs. Brock, because that is important, in my opinion, as to the ruling they make here in a second.
Wasn't that the next day or the day right
Yes.
after?
It
Okay.
was the next
You can't-
morning.
You don't remember what pants he had on?
Evidently not. It was the very next morning. They get to that, I think, in cross-examination, like the time that he got there.
Okay. Did they identify the t-shirt?
Yeah, Mr. Brock said it was his oh, you know what? I didn't read that next line on the top. I'm so sorry. Let me go read the last statement that I made so I can read all that together. You don't have to pull it up, Crystal. I'm reading it from my phone. So
Okay.
the last statement I made is, no, sir, I located a pair of work pants inside the smokehouse where Mr. Brock was located. That was identified by Mr. Brock and Mrs. Brock as possibly being the pants that he had on the night of the 10th. They wasn't sure. I seized those pants also.
Okay. Did they identify the t-shirt?
Yeah, Mr. Brock said it was his t-shirt.
Did he tell you if he'd had that on that day or that's what he was wearing that day?
His wife told me that's what he was wearing, the brown t-shirt.
Okay. What did you do after you conducted the search of the vehicle and the premise?
There was a ground search conducted by Officer Barnett and Coroner Garland and his deputy coroner. At that time, it was roughly 7:30 in the morning. I gave Mr. Brock his Miranda warnings. He declined to make any statements without representation. I stopped the questioning and took him to Knox County Jail, where he was processed and lodged.
Judge, if I could interrupt for just a second, may we approach the bench?
Yes.
I'd like the record to reflect an objection to the trooper. Testifying as to anything that Marlow Brock's wife told him. I think.
Well, if it was in his presence, it would be all right. If he was not present there, it's objectionable.
Well, it was not clear.
I'll ask him.
In open court, I'll ask him. At the time you were talking to Marlow Brock's wife, was he present? I'm not sure, Your Honor. He could have very well been present. I'm not sure.
Just for that reason, I'd like the record to show.
Well, anything she said outside the presence of the defendant, objection is sustained to it. The jury will not consider it.
Judge, we'll withdraw that if in fact he was not there.
All right.
Okay. Did they not just say that Mr. Brock and Mrs. Brock identified those clothing?
He did.
So this whole part that they just testified to about this shirt and these pants was thrown out or withdrawn. because of this part right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may, let me back up just a second. You said earlier that the 20 gauge shotgun shell that you found by the victim's vehicle at the cemetery, that you held on to it, and then later you sent it and had some kind of lab test run. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did any of the other items which you found during your investigation and confiscated, were any of those items sent for various lab tests?
Yes, sir, they were.
Would you tell us which items?
There were some beer cans that were located later in the investigation that were sent for testing.
Okay. Did you keep those until they were taken to the lab?
Yes, sir.
Just to clarify things and make sure we have the chain of custody of all these items, did you yourself take them, or were they delivered to someone else and that person take them to the lab?
No, I hand carried the evidence.
Who did you take the shotgun shell to?
Mr. Ronnie Frills.
Okay. Who did you take the beer cans to?
I don't know the gentleman's name. He's a state police employee. I don't recall his name.
Was it a gentleman?
Yes, sir. I believe the beer cans were received by a gentleman in Leighton Prince.
Would that not have been a Lucy Davis?
It could have been, but I thought I released them to a gentleman. It may have been a lady. I was going to several different parts of the lab at the time. I had several particles of evidence.
Okay. Did you take any other items other than the beer cans and the shotgun shells?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. What was the next item you submitted?
The rolled cigarette and also the tobacco, or what appeared to be tobacco particles I'd located in the floorboard. I took them to London Lab. Also, the beer case that contained what appeared to be blood stains, and the clothing and a blood sample from Mr. Abner I took to a forensic pathologist lab.
Did you hand carry all those items to the lab?
Yes, sir.
You remember who the other items you just mentioned, who you gave those to, or who you delivered those to?
No, sir. These people are in Frankfurt. I don't deal with them on a daily basis. I'm not familiar with the names.
They were delivered to the crime lab.
Yes, that's correct.
After you lodged the defendant in the Knox County Jail, did your investigation then lead you anywhere else?
Yes, sir, it did.
Okay, what happened? I mean, where did you go to? What did your investigation undertake at this point?
I went back to the Crawford residence. I went back to the scene and
Did you conduct an investigation?
yes, sir.
At those points, did you find anything else that you hadn't previously found?
Yes, sir.
What would that have been?
I found a 20 gauge spent shotgun hull at Robert Crawford's residence in the driveway. That's about the only other physical that I took in possession at that time.
Were you at some point in your investigation contacted by some confidential informant?
Several times in
Okay.
the investigation. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. But notice there that the other piece of evidence was not found at the scene. It was found at Robert Crawford's residence. I'm still wondering why everybody is not considered a suspect at this time. This is the next day, y'all.
Yeah. Very good question.
I feel like it's weird to
Absolutely.
me that they're not looking at all of them as potential suspects.
No, it sounds like someone said Marlow did it, and they said, okay, Marlow's guilty. Let's go ahead and send him to trial.
At whatever cost that was. That's
Yeah.
what's sad about this. It looks like they were ready to close this case the day it happened, no matter what it costed.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, you've got two brothers and a mom. They're going to stick up for each other. Then you got this other guy who's supposed to be their friend, who's the easy target.
Yeah. That would be Marlow.
I would think word of mouth is not something that Trooper McKnight should have win on, in my
No, it's
humble
hearsay,
opinion.
and it wouldn't even be admitted into court.
Exactly. And that's all he had. That's all he had. He had no idea at this point who was smoking a rolled cigarette that I also want to add there is no photo of. He had no idea who was smoking a Marlboro cigarette for that matter. He didn't know who pulled this trigger. He did have them stating they were at that scene. At this point, they're the only one that has put Marlow up there with them.
Very true.
And let's not forget, Jean has already told one story that it was just her and Ball. Why would you believe somebody that's done lied to you?
Yeah. Because first she said she ran off that hill.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Several times in the investigation, I used confidential informants and was contacted by confidential informants.
Did these confidential informants?
Judge, we're going to have to object to anything anyone testified to.
I was just going to ask if it led to anything, Your Honor.
Well, he can say that he had some, but will not get into what they told him.
If I may, Your Honor, may I ask him if this led to any discovery? I mean, without him telling.
Oh, yeah, you can ask him that.
Did this result in any kind of findings or anything that assisted you in your investigation of this murder?
Yes, sir.
What findings would those be?
A 20-gauge shotgun.
Where did you find this at?
The shotgun was loaded. Located in Knoxville, Tennessee, at the residence of Jimmy Hickman.
Who is that again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Jimmy Hickman.
Did you find the shotgun and bring it back or try to discover how it got to Knoxville, Tennessee?
Yes, sir. I discovered how it got in Knoxville, Tennessee, and did bring the weapon back.
In your opinion, how did this shotgun end up in Knoxville, Tennessee?
Judge, I object to the officer speculating.
Did you say in his opinion?
I asked him in his opinion, Your Honor.
Well, the objection is sustained. We're not going to opinion evidence unless he's an expert in something. If he found out how it got down there, he can tell, but he can't give his opinion as to how it got there.
We'd have to make a ruling on hearsay, Your Honor, if the information came from his confidential informant.
Well, you'd have to present witnesses that informed him of that as to how it got down there.
Okay, Your Honor.
That would be strictly hearsay. Was there anything else? Oh, no, that was yours. Sorry.
Was there anything else that you discovered during your investigation?
There were several discoveries made during this.
I meant from the confidential informant. We were talking about the gun. You told us it got to Knoxville. We'll leave it there. Did you find anything else, in investigating from that point?
The shotgun I recovered was compared with.
I'll object to anything like that.
Well, let's see what he's going to say. The shotgun I recovered was compared with the hole that I recovered at the scene. Objection is overruled. Crime lab, compare it. Yes, sir. Okay.
Did you take the weapon to the crime lab?
Yes, sir, I did.
Do you recall who was to perform the investigation? Would it have been the same person who was going to conduct the investigation on the shell?
Yes, sir.
I don't think I have any further questions at this time, Your Honor, but I reserve the right to recall him.
You may ask.
Judge, I only have a few questions of this witness.
Cross-examination by Mr. Robinson.
You went to where Marlow was staying a little after 6 in the morning. It would have been September the 11th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And at that time, you found Marlow Brock in bed, right?
That's correct.
And his wife was there in bed also, wasn't she?
Correct.
At the time that you went to the Crawford residence, the first time, to talk to Jean Crawford and whoever else you could find there, about what time was that?
Approximately 2:47 a.m. on the 11th.
2:47 in the morning on the 11th.
Yes, sir.
Early in the morning.
Yes, sir.
And the shooting, as far as you know, took place sometime before midnight on the 10th.
The nearest I could pin it down was approximately 11:45 p.m.
Okay, so it was about 3 hours from the time of the shooting until you talked to Jean Crawford, right?
That's correct.
And at that point, she gave you an oral statement to start with, didn't she?
Yes, sir.
And then at a later date, a later time, that same evening, she gave you a witness statement, right?
Yes, sir.
So that was after she told you orally different story, right?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
I have just one or two other questions, Your Honor.
Redirect examination by Mr. Bingham.
Officer McKnight, what time was this call received?
I received the call at 25 minutes after midnight.
And what time did you arrive at the cemetery?
48 minutes after at 12:48 a.m.
Do you have any idea of approximately what time this event might have occurred?
Just by the only way I was able to determine approximate time was just due to witnesses narrowing down the time.
Well, in general, can you give us an idea of your opinion or
11:45 on the 10th.
September the 10th?
Before midnight, 15 minutes prior to, and I do believe this is the last page they submitted.
This is, and it's not the end of his transcript. It just was not in the file. So the end of this was not, I mean, it was taken out for some reason or another. Again, I want you to pay attention right here. It says, I received the call at 25 minutes after midnight. That's 12:25, correct? We can all agree that would be in 12:25. And
Correct.
what time did you arrive at the cemetery? 48 minutes after, at 12:48. Now I'm going to tell you, I
The
live
math
here.
ain't mathing.
The math is not math. It takes me 30 minutes to get to town, let alone to get anywhere around RECC. I don't buy
And where did he
this.
say? Didn't he say he had to go somewhere to take the phone call? Because I mean, they didn't have cell phones then. So
That's
where
what
did
I'm
he go
saying.
to
He
take
was
the phone call?
almost Corbin, right around where the redhead murders, Michelle, to give you an
Ah,
idea.
okay.
Yeah. So he's saying he made it from there to this scene that quickly. And I mean,
Well,
I'm not buying that, and there's a reason for it. The reason I'm not buying it is because later on in another episode, you're going to hear Mr. Bingham's testimony. You're also going to hear Charles Chuck Johnson, whom we know took and made the phone call. He placed that phone call at 10:45. 10:45 was an hour before the coroner. I mean, according to the coroner's report, Uncle Ball did die at 11:45, around 11:45. But regardless, at 10:45, that is an hour before Uncle Ball is dead.
mhm.
Wow.
And
Oh, there's a
words mean
lot
things.
of stuff that Robinson should have objected to that he didn't, especially when they're talking about who he handed the evidence over to, and he can't even remember. He says it's a man, and then as soon as they bring a woman up, oh, well, yeah, it may have been a woman.
Yeah.
Now, how do you not
Yes.
know if it's a man or a woman that you gave the evidence to?
Well,
Good
I mean,
question.
that's a very good question. It is a very good question. I don't know how you could.
Why was he holding on to evidence personally himself
That's what
for an
I was
Because,
extended amount of time before he gave it to the forensic lab? I didn't like that at all.
No.
well, I don't like it, but you have to, in order to be able to testify about something, they have to establish a chain of evidence. So him saying he held on to it only kept it with him until it went to the lab. Do you see what I'm saying? Did it stay with him? I don't know. But
Well, he made it sound
I'm
like he
saying
held on to it for an extended
quite some
period of
time, he
time.
says.
Yeah, which is that's where I have a problem because when you get the evidence, you need to put it and lock it away in the evidence locker. And it's not just in your personal possession. It's locked away in the evidence place until it goes, and that should be turned over immediately. You shouldn't be hanging on
Exactly.
to evidence until what?
Exactly.
That
They,
doesn't make sense.
yeah, what they're supposed to do, they put that tamper-proof evidence tape on
Thank
whatever they've
you.
collected, put it in the storage locker,
And
and
see,
they
he
know it
did.
hasn't been tampered with if that tape's not been messed with. And when they go to test it, you take it straight from the locker to the lab.
But he didn't
Yep.
describe that at all.
No.
And that's
Nope.
that thing
Yep.
that's a bother. That bothers me. I don't know. It just
Especially another question that I have, and this is for the chat also. When have you ever heard of a case that only the state investigates that happens in a county? How many times have we heard, for example, Rogersville has to hand it over to TBI, or um, Sumner County has to hand it over to TBI? The same way back in Kentucky back in 1987, it was still that same process because Kelly Holland, who went missing in Hazard, Kentucky, his stayed with that county until it was handed over to KSP. So in this case, why is there absolutely zero county cops at that crime scene? Why is nobody from the county even involved that you can find in this investigation?
Yeah.
When have you all heard of that? Can you all name me one case where that happened? Dutchie, have you and Arctic cover a lot? Have you heard of another case were the state only.
I have not seen a case like that in my time doing this.
Well, when you talk about chain of command, that is chain of command. I mean, you gotta. I mean, it's got to go through the county
Yeah.
before it can go through. Like, I mean, that just doesn't even make sense to me, because there's also a chain of command with the way cases are done too. That's why FBI can't get involved in a state regulated case, and the state doesn't get involved on a county level either. You know, there has to
Well,
be certain situations where they can take over. XXX has to exist for that to happen without being
Now,
asked to come in.
I've seen cases where the state assists the county right from the get because it's a county that don't have the resources that necessarily the state agency would have, but it's never that they just take over for the county without without the county even being involved.
Yeah.
exactly. And I mean, he gives an account of 2 people, and that's the only account you'll ever hear in any of these documents, including these police notes. And that's him and Officer Burnett was on the cemetery. The only part of the county that you hear mentioned is the coroner, Jerry Garland.
Yeah.
And his deputy, of course. But I've never heard of it before. And Chris in the chat said, could it be possible that it's his personal case that he never forgot? Well, I would hope he didn't forget, because they tried 2 cases within 2 years for capital murder. And they did this case in 2 days.
Yeah.
And what people may not know is Kentucky doesn't have like a TBI. Kentucky State Police is their TBI.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just what it's called. Yeah.
And you won't see TBI taking a case from beginning to end.
Mm-mm.
They only get involved if they have to.
Now, Dutch, just read from the investigation. This is KSP's notes.
Okay.
Read from where it says investigation to the bottom. That way it gives a context to the next page.
Okay.
And pay attention. Please pay attention to what the officer asked Jean about what she left in the vehicle, because in her transcripts, this will be important.
Yes. So on this, it says investigation. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to tell you, I went back after we talked earlier and I marked what to read, but I think it's important to read these last 2 too. I thought it was marked and it ain't.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Under investigation, I interviewed Betty J. Crawford, wife of Robert Crawford, at her residence. She advised me basically the same information as Robert, Jean, and Jeff, except no one advised me before of Marlow Brock being in Robert Crawford's residence on the night of said murder. 9/17 of 1987 at 1000 hours, contacted Jean and Jeff Crawford at Knox County Juvenile Court, where Jeff had previous charges. I asked Jean and Jeff various questions. I asked Jeff if they had obtained lights to rip off the marijuana patch, and he stated they had no lights. Jean stated they had no lights also. I asked Jeff if it wouldn't have been hard to see in the dark to rip off a marijuana patch without lights, and he stated not if you knew where it was. I asked Jeff if he remembered if gave him a light for his cigarette, and he stated He did not. He asked me if he rolled, if he asked me if the rolled cigarette I found was lit or not, and I asked him to tell me. He stated he didn't know. I asked him what the color lighter he owned, and he stated yellow. I asked both subjects if they remembered where and when the last time they saw the empty half-case box of 12-ounce beer, and both subjects stated they didn't remember. I asked Jeff again how they were sitting in Marlow's car when they left the scene, and he stated he was in the front passenger side and his mother was in the rear seat with Marlow driving. I asked Jeff how he didn't see the half case at his feet, as I had located it in Marlow's vehicle on the passenger side with said empty case containing a yellow cigarette lighter and appeared to have blood on the interior of the case. Jeff stated he didn't remember it and he had lost his lighter previously. At this time, Jean spoke up and stated she removed the half case from the Abner vehicle. She stated after Ball was shot, she got her purse and the Budweiser half case out of the passenger floorboard of Abner's vehicle. She stated the half case contained 2 beers and she thought she might drink them to calm her nerves after the shooting. Lord have mercy. I'm sorry.
Now, I want y'all to remember that, because in her testimony, I want you to remember that she says she got it out of there, her purse, and a half case of beer. Now, Officer McKnight just stated that that beer case was found in the passenger seat in the front of Marlow's vehicle with a yellow lighter that Jeff claims is his lighter.
Exactly.
Okay? He needed a light from my Uncle Ball. Why?
Because he had his own lighter, so...
He had his own lighter and it got in that box afterwards.
Make sense. And there was also blood inside the box. Don't forget. I got so many questions. I cannot. Okay. I asked her after witnessing her lover shot, how could she think of her purse and 2 beers before exiting vehicle? And she stated she just did. I asked Jean and Jeff, why didn't they tell me these items of importance at first without me having to pry it out of them? And they both stated they didn't think of it. I advised both subjects, due to inconsistencies in statements given to me, I was requesting both of them to take a polygraph examination. Jean stated she had read and heard where polygraph examinations weren't reliable, especially on nervous persons like herself. I explained the polygraph procedures to Jean and Jeff, explaining the examiner could determine between nervousness and lying. I advised both Jean and Jeff that they possibly wouldn't be asked over 4 or 5 questions. 2 being, did you shoot Ball Abner? And prior to going to the cemetery, did you know Ball Abner was going to be killed? Which I think is pertinent information, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do too.
Both subjects stated they wouldn't have any problems answering these questions on examination, and Jean stated they would take the polygraph. I contacted KSP Crime Lab and scheduled examination for Jean and Jeff on September 21st of 1987, 1300 hours. I advised Jean I would pick her and Jeff up at approximately 1200 hours, 9/21, 1987. Then it goes to the next one, which is dated 9/20 of 1987. At 900 hours, a female identifying herself as Jean Crawford called my house and spoke with my wife. She stated to my wife that she had contacted her lawyer and he advised her and her son not to take the polygraph test. The lady advised my wife if I wanted to contact her, she would be at David's, her son's house. Further investigation continuing.
I think it's a big coincidence that on the 20th, the day before the polygraph, she's advised not to take a polygraph. They didn't like the questions he told them they would be asking, in my opinion. Therefore, they did not take their
Was it
polygraph.
normal back then for them to be calling an officer's house? I'm
I
just
don't know.
asking.
I've never been in the middle of a crime, but I would think not. And I mean, and talk to the wife. Even if
Yeah.
I did call someplace, if I thought, how did
If
she
you
know she was
aren't
talking
guilty,
to
do
his
you have
wife?
anything to hide?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Innocent
I'm not
people hide
guilty.
nothing.
Ask me whatever you want to. But see, that's because they know they might just get caught.
Now, the black spots on the pages that you're seeing in KSP, they redacted because Jeff Crawford, which is a grown man now, back then was a minor. He was 17. But this now is Jean's written statement that she gave the night that Officer McKnight, after she lied to him, this is the written statement that she made. Notice where she says she went out of the vehicle at and other details in this statement, because you're getting ready to hear her trial transcripts, what she said on the stand. She can't even keep her story straight from this written statement to the time she gets on the stand.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Jean Crawford's voluntary statement on September 11th, 1987. It took place at Robert Crawford's residence, and the time started was at 4:30 a.m., according to this document, in Knox County, Kentucky, by Officer Tom McKnight, Jr., trooper with the KSP. And her statement says as follows. Around 9 p.m. or 9:30 p.m., Marlow, Brock, and my son Jeff came to my house where me and Otis were. They didn't seem to be drunk, but they had some beer with them. I took my sleeping pill and laid down, and I could hear the three of them talking about stealing 2 pot plants. Ball came to the bed and told me to get up, that I was going to go with him and was going to go get the pot. I already had my clothes on. We locked the doors, and me and Ball got in Ball's car, and Marlow and Jeff were in Marlow's car. We followed them up in the cemetery. Marlow and Jeff was already there, and Ball pulled up on the hill and turned around. We pulled pretty close to Marlow's car, but his car was further on in the cemetery, and we were coming back down. And actually, I think that says, but his car was facing the cemetery
Yeah, it
and
was.
we were coming back down. Y'all have to admit this is some chicken scratch, okay?
It's chicken scratch, so
Y'all bear with me. We were just sitting there, and all of a sudden, I felt something hit the side of my
notice this
face.
order.
Yeah. I felt something hit the side of my face, and I heard the gun explode. I fell over in the seat, and I thought I had been hit. And I looked over at Ball and saw he had his brains shot out. I went all to pieces. Don't get me started on this spelling. And I tried to get the door open, and it wouldn't. And I climbed over the seat and went out the back window. Star that. Jeff
Yes.
said, "Get out of the car, Mommy." And we got in that car of Marlow's. I believe Marlow asked me where I wanted to go, and I told him to the house. Marlow brought me and Jeff to Robert's house and let us out. Signed, Gene Crawford.
Okay.
So
And all,
if he climbs out the back window, that would require that window was open, correct?
yes.
Did they not say that the only window that was rolled down was Abner's?
Yes.
The only one that would roll down, I think.
No,
Or
that was
rolled down.
the
Oh,
back.
that was rolled down.
No, the only window that was rolled down was the one that Uncle Ball was at, the driver's side front window.
But didn't
Yeah.
she say she
Gene,
crawled out the back window?
yes, right here.
So
She
how
said
do
That's
you
what she said.
I
how do you
climbed over
crawl
the
out?
seat and went out the back window, but it's rolled up. So did she roll it
So
back
let me
up?
guess. She got out of the window and then she opened the door and rolled the window up, all while there's an active shooting happening. But also
Exactly.
grabbed her purse and the beer. Let's not
And in
let's
the
not forget
and
that.
do keep in mind, people, in the first statement, she said it was just her and my uncle that went on this cemetery. That um, somebody came out, shot him, and she ran off that cemetery and got the first ride she could. Well, back then it was a dirt road, and even now, if you came out of that cemetery at 11:45 at night, you're probably walking the rest of the way out of the holler too. I mean, there's just not that much traffic to be hitchhiking up in a holler that's a total of almost 11 miles. And no. But that was the first story that she gave. Now, do keep in mind, right here, she says she went out the window because, boy, is her testimony a little bit different. And let me see here. I think there was something else that I wanted to point out with this. Oh, it escapes me. It escapes me what I was thinking of. Oh, yeah, right here. She said she felt, let's read this for a second. She said, I felt something hit the side of my face and I heard a gun explode. That is not the order that would happen in. Is she saying that the blood that hit the side of her face traveled faster than sound?
Yeah, that don't make any sense.
My opinion, she's not trying to say that the other happened after. I mean, I do that all the time. Two things happened, so I said yes. I saw this and I heard this, but it doesn't mean that I heard this before I saw this. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think she got turned around mentioning the window. That's very, very important.
Listen, she says
Also,
that
keep in mind she took out her purse and the beer
and
to
she
calm her
says that
nerves.
she has brains in her hair.
Hair.
Let's not forget that part.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Because we talked
you know,
about the
I'm not
forensics.
defending her at all. I think she's
Oh, I mean,
yeah.
I
I think she's the one that's responsible.
yeah. But I do agree with you, Arctic. Like I'm agreeing with you that yeah, it can be those things, but she don't make any sense. I mean,
Oh no.
none of this makes sense. None of this makes sense.
No.
It's
But now here's her transcripts. If you take anything from what we have read in the KSP and
I hope
in
y'all got your
her written
notepads and y'all are
statement,
writing this down because it's a lot. You
she
really have
says
to
she
have
went out
notes.
the window. Remember, she said she went out the window. Also, remember, she said she took her purse and the beer because she thought that beer was going to calm her nerves. You know, you remember your beer in your purse when the love of your life is shot right dead beside of you. You forget your shoes, but now you remember your purse and your beer, which makes absolutely no sense. But evidently, she forgets that little.
I think
tidbit
I'd have been so
information.
traumatized, like I wouldn't have thought about none of that. I would have just needed to get away from there because I would have been in shock. I would have not, I would have just been like, I don't ever want to see that purse again. Somebody's going to go get that stuff. I'm not going to touch it. I don't want to. This is how I see my reaction being. So for me, that was just, no, I'm sorry.
Well,
That's a red flag for
at
me.
4:00 I can give a written statement, and I've been questioned to the point that the trooper just knows it's Marlow. I don't think I would have rode to my son's house in the vehicle with him. Of course, she is letting on like she thinks whoever owned that pot patch was the one doing the shooting. But now keep also in mind, KSP notes never indicate them looking for a pot patch.
Yeah,
If they thought there was a
explain
pot
that.
patch
Because
there,
if there's
why
a
did they
huge
not
pot
look for
patch,
one?
yes,
Yeah.
I think that's critical. Because don't you also want to know who's growing illegal marijuana at this point? Because if there's a huge
Right.
patch, it seems like law enforcement's going to want to know about that too, right?
Yep.
I would think
And
so.
it would also, would it not solidify that they're finally telling you the truth if you go up there and you find, and keep in mind, that's another point. I mean, in her written statement, she says 2 pot plants. That's a whole nother thing. It's a different number in her testimony. But if you go up there and you find this pot patch, would that not solidify they're telling you the truth? Hey, there is a pot patch up here. But now, also, keynote, they didn't have lights at midnight. No street lights
Listen,
up
you're
there on
not
that
going out
cemetery.
there to do
Still aren't.
something like that without lights.
No. Not in these hills.
That's because that's a made up story about what had happened was, but that's not what had happened. I think it's a cover story.
I do too. I do too. Okay, we'll get started on Jean's
Okay.
transcript
All right, let's
now.
go over here to Jean's. All right. Who's Jean?
That would be you.
You are.
Oh, I'm Jean too. Oh, God. Okay.
The
Listen, I'm
Commonwealth.
lost now. Okay.
The Commonwealth calls Jean Crawford.
After first been duly sworn, testifies as followed. Direct examination by Mr. Bingham.
Okay.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Jean Crawford.
Mrs. Crawford, where do you live?
Well, right now I live in Girdler.
Where did you live on September the 10th, 1987?
I lived in Girdler then.
Were you familiar or did you know the victim, Otis or Ball Abner?
Yes.
How did you know the victim?
Well, I'd been living with him for 4 years, same house.
Same house? Was it his house?
Well, most time it was his house, but
Okay. Did your son Jeff live with you all?
sometimes, off and on, it was his home, but he stayed with his sisters and things along, at times.
And was he in fact living there? Or were you all living together on September the 10th, 1987?
Yes.
During the evening of September the 10th, did the defendant, Marlow Brock, and your son come to the house where you and Ball Abner were living?
Yes.
About what time did they come?
Well, it's getting about dark. I don't know the exact time. It was late, getting dark.
Where were you at?
I was there in the house.
Were you in the same room with them or in and out or in one of the other rooms?
No, I was in the same room.
Did you hear them discussing stealing some pot?
Yeah.
What did you hear them say?
Well, I heard Marlow tell Ball that he knowed where to get 40 pot plants and nobody watching it. And Ball said, okay. And nobody watching it. And he said no.
What happened after that?
Well, they fooled around there and made themselves some supper. I took a pill and I went and laid down on the bed. A relaxer pill, it helps me sleep. And they fixed their own supper and eat together. Probably took about an hour. And then I was in the bed, though, while they was eating supper.
Okay. After they finished eating supper, and you said you were in the bed and everything, did anybody come and get you up?
Yeah, Ball come through, and he said, get up. We're going after pot.
Did you get up?
Yeah.
What happened after that? Did you all go?
Yeah, we went down to the graveyard.
Now, how did everybody get up there?
Well, me and Ball went in the car that he had, and Jeff and Marlow went in Marlow's car.
Okay. Did Marlow and Jeff go in front of you all?
Yeah, they was already there when we got there.
So they went up there, and then you all came on up there.
Yeah, but we's close together,
Okay. Did you park in the cemetery up there?
Down at the cemetery's fenced off. We parked on the outside of it.
Well, when you got up there and parked, what happened?
Well, we's just sitting there in the car, It's dark. No lights around the place. And we just sit there a few minutes.
Well, where was Marlow and Jeff at?
They was in Marlow's car.
Now, how close were they to where you and Ball were at?
Well, they's just a little distance. Me and Ball was in the main road, turned to come back down the hill from the cemetery, and I don't know how far apart it was, but anyways, I didn't see Jeff or Marlow. Neither one.
You didn't see them?
out of the car.
How long had you and Bob been sitting there?
Well, we hadn't been sitting there long till that shot fired, you know. I didn't know what it I didn't know what it was at the time. I thought it was such a noise, you know? And I thought I was killed too. So,
So you were sitting there and you heard a shot fired.
yeah, right against my head.
Where were you at?
I was sitting inside Ball's in the car.
In the front seat?
Yeah.
And you were on the passenger side and he was on the driver's side.
Yes.
Okay. After you heard the shot fired, what happened?
Well, I fell down in the seat and I thought I'd been hit. I felt numb all over. And then when I did raise up, Jeff jerked open the back door and he said, "Get out of here, Mommy, and let's go. Let's get out of here." And when I raised up off my seat, I seen that Ball was dead and all of his brains was on the back of the seat. What wasn't in my hair and my head. I seen they wasn't no help for him at all. So I climbed over the back of the seat and got out, and I thought whoever's pot that was going to kill the rest of us. So we just, you know, in a rush to get away from there.
Did you see anybody with a gun?
No, I didn't.
How come you climbed over the seat and went out the back door?
Well, the front door that I sat by wouldn't open without a screwdriver. You had to work with a screwdriver a little while to get the door open. So we didn't take the time to do nothing like that. Thought we'd be next, you know, with anybody trying to steal pot. They're liable to get killed, so.
So Jeff opened the back door
Yes.
and reached in and pulled you out.
Yes, helped me over the seat.
And you say there was blood and stuff all over the back seat.
Yeah, and my face and hair too.
And Jeff crawled in and got you.
Okay. Now, we just read her statement. What happened to the window?
Exactly. She didn't crawl out a window here.
No.
Nope.
Nope.
He opened that back door.
He
And
opened
right here.
the door.
And right here, I've always said I think words mean things. Well, the front door that I sat by wouldn't open without a screwdriver. You had to work it with a screwdriver a little while to get the door open. So we didn't take time to do nothing like that. Thought we'd be next.
Mm-hmm.
You know. I mean, did they discuss it? We didn't take time to do nothing like that.
I mean, what'd he do? Come and ask her if he wanted her to go get a screwdriver to open the door?
Well, she says there's blood and stuff all over the back seat. Did Jeff have any on him?
Well, according to witnesses, he had blood on him. But my thing is this. She said she crawled out the window, too.
Yep.
Who shut the door?
Well, good point. Are you going to shut a door if somebody's shooting at you, especially if that might be the one thing between you and them?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm probably not going to take the time to shut that door because I'm not going to be there on the other side of that door.
Also, notice the 2 pot plants multiplied, and they're now 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she said 2 in her statement.
Yep.
Yeah.
You go get 2
And
pot plants.
I'm just listening to how she described that car and comparing it to the pictures that you showed us in Discord, and they don't match up.
Yeah. Everybody remember how she's describing this car, because I'm going to show those pictures, because I want you to ask yourself, is this the bloody mess she's describing? She said it's all over the back seat. Okay, we'll go on to the next page, but I will be showing those pictures.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, he helped me over the seat.
When Jeff got in there and helped you,
Now, I don't know if he did. He might not have got in there, but I climbed over the back seat and went out the back door. But he's standing at the back door.
when you got out of the car, when you crawled over the seat to get out of the car, did you leave anything in the front floorboard?
Me?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I left my purse, had all my important papers in it, and some money, and a box with 2 cans of beer in it.
Anything else?
In the box?
No, in the floor in the front where you were sitting.
My shoes.
You left your shoes in it too?
Yeah.
Your Honor, I would ask to approach the witness after I show this to Mr. Robinson.
And then the photographs are shown to Mr. Robinson.
Okay, I got another thing here. What did she just say? Right here. Yes, I left my purse. Had all my important papers in it, and some money, and a box with 2 beer cans in it. She left
How'd they
them.
get Marlow's car?
Exactly. She left them.
No, they went back and got it.
Because let's remember the KSP that we just read. KSP asked, how did you remember to grab your purse and the beer when your lover's just been shot beside of you?
Yep.
So another lie.
Yep.
And remember, there was blood in the beer case.
With a yellow lighter. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, with Jeff's yellow lighter. How convenient. Did anybody investigate this? Because I feel like we're the only ones investigating this. Right?
I don't think so.
No.
My God.
No, they didn't. What looks like to me happened is they went there where their bunch of family was gathered, in my opinion. And they all pointed the finger at Marlow, and they took their word on it.
This is aggravating.
Dora the Explorer would have done better investigation than what these guys did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's just so obvious to me. Yeah, Josh B., it does seem like it's good old boy botched, for sure.
Oh, very good old boy botched. Hello, Sunday Doodle.
Okay. All right. We ready?
May I approach the witness,
Sunday
Your Honor? Go ahead.
Just a second. Sunday Doodle makes a very good point. And I hadn't thought of that. I don't know, but the beer freaks me out because gross after all that all over it.
Yeah, I agree.
It would have been. Are you going to drink that?
Yeah, because he says it in there that there is blood splatter all in the beer case. So it would have been on the cans too. That was crazy.
Oh my gosh. I hadn't even thought of that, but okay. I'm going to have to process that one.
I know, right? Oh. Yeah, Sunday. See, none of that makes sense to me. I wouldn't even be thinking about wanting to touch any of that stuff. But her story doesn't add up. So.
Well, I mean, would you touch it if the only place the blood was on your hands? Because this, Jens will see, does not look like a car somebody's been murdered in my opinion. And it sure does not look like they describe it.
It's wild. That's why she wanted to go home and take a shower.
And they didn't
Wash,
find that suspicious.
washing
Why
off
didn't
the
they take her
evidence.
clothes?
I
You
know.
know, Lori has asked this every time. Why did they not take her and Jess' clothes?
Probably because they went home and washed them. And they probably didn't even think, they didn't do their job. Sad.
May I
Okay.
approach the witness, Your Honor?
We went over those before.
Yes.
Okay, let it be done.
Mrs. Crawford, I'm going to show you a picture here. And can you identify that as the vehicle you were in? And are those your shoes in the floorboard there?
Well, I don't have glasses on. I don't think I even brought them. I know the paper was in there. I just bought it that afternoon. If I had my glasses, I could see better. My shoes were sitting right down there by the beer box with had 2 cans of beer in it.
You cannot see those shoes there?
No, I can't see them. I probably could if I had my glasses on. They're little jelly shoes, clear jelly shoes.
Okay, thank you.
But that looks like the cigarette. I'd say that because Ball laid out about a couple of packs of cigarettes on there before we left home. I'd guess that'd be his.
Would this be Ball there?
When I see him, he wasn't fell over. He could have fell over, though. He was still sitting up in the seat.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Crawford. This event occurred, and since Marlow Brock was arrested, did sometime during the month of September after his arrest, did you receive a letter from Marlow Brock?
Yes, I got a letter from Marlow.
Would you tell the jury what the letter said?
Well, he just said he said not to pay attention to state police. They act like they knowed everything and they didn't know it all and just alibi. He said to tell what happened, alibi that while we was there.
Your Honor, may we approach the bench?
At the bench, out of the hearing of the jury. Have you seen this?
I don't think so.
You'd better look at it.
Your Honor, I would object to the introduction of this.
Maybe we'd better have a hearing on it. In open court, I'm going to give the jury about 10-minute break, and if you will go out and vacate the courtroom, you can walk around the hallway a few minutes till the sheriff hollers for you. I want to hear something in here outside the hearing of the jury to determine whether or not it's admissible for you to hear.
Judge, can I ask for a break for myself for a minute? I like to use the restroom.
Be around in the hallway, and the sheriff will holler for you when we need you. On second thought, we might as well hear this in chambers. So, in chambers.
Judge, there's just been presented to the court and myself a letter which was purported to be written by Marlow Brock to either Gene Crawford or some of the other Crawfords. I'm not sure who it was supposed to be sent to, and I've objected to that letter being introduced into evidence or being used in any way since it's been first. see where I was at. First of all, shown to me at this state, which is too late for me to prepare in any way for its any kind of use of it, and or any cross-examination of it or anything of that nature. And also, I think that letter, if introduced or used, would be extremely prejudicial to the defendant. And since I don't believe it's competent evidence, I don't believe it should be allowed as evidence.
Commonwealth, in response to the defendant's motion, would state that they feel that it is competent evidence, that it can be shown that it was sent through the U.S. mail to Jean Crawford, and that it was addressed to her, and that the Commonwealth at this time has only now been made aware of the letter as well, and that once receiving the letter, we have shown it to the court as well as the defense counsel in compliance with the discovery order, and that the Commonwealth feels like it would be beneficial to their case and they would have a right to enter such into the record, or at least be given the opportunity to have a hearing and try to establish whether or not the letter in fact came from Mr. Brock.
Well, it appears now that this letter has been in the hands of some of the chief prosecuting witnesses for some period of time. I don't know exactly how long, and it was produced today. I'm not faulting the Commonwealth at all. They didn't get wasn't aware of it until a few minutes ago, probably, and it would be, in my opinion, prejudicial to the defendant. There's a serious question in my mind of the admissibility of it under these circumstances. If the defendant had an opportunity to view this and examine this bit of evidence prior to today when this trial was started, why it would be admissible, but under those circumstances, the court is of the opinion that it would not be admissible, and so orders.
Judge, at this time, I think the court and we've all been made aware that while there was a break, while the court was on a break, a person allegedly was talking to one of the jurors, a juror by the name of Evie Brown. The allegation is, anyway, that was overheard was talk about Otis Abner, and the person who heard this and observed this believed that they were talking about the case, but did not bear or hear exactly what was said. And other than she claims she heard the word, the name Otis Abner. Because of that, it seems to be implied that there's a possibility that the jury's been tampered with in this case, and so I would move the court to declare a mistrial at this time.
Comes now the Commonwealth in response to the defendant's motion, and would state that it does not appear that a declaration of a mistrial would be in order for several reasons. One reason being that the information given was only that she thought she heard him say Otis Abner, and that upon questioning by the judge, the defendant or the juror denied any such happenings, and there doesn't seem to be any prejudice or that there has been any jury tampering.
The court, through personal observation, ought to find out here that there is a number of different factions in this case in which the feelings run pretty high. And the court, after hearing the young lady who stated that she saw someone talking to this jury in question, and then after calling the juror in chambers and questioning am I on the wrong one?
No, you're right.
Okay. Someone talking to this jury in question, and then after calling the juror in chambers and questioning the juror about it, the court feels that there has been nothing happened that would cause a mistrial. I'm almost of the opinion that some of the factions in this case may try to do something like this, and if they did, it would disrupt the court proceedings very much. So this juror that the court questioned appeared to the court to be honest and straightforward about it. He stated that he did not know the deceased, never knew him, and nobody had said anything to him about this case. That he did, while he was out in the hall during a break, meet a fellow out there that he hadn't seen for years and years. He used to work for and that talked to him, but he did not talk about this case, and therefore the defendant's motion to declare a mistrial is overruled.
Judge, in the alternative, I feel like I should ask the court to excuse this juror who the allegations have been made against.
Let me take that motion under consideration. We can do that anytime prior to the time we excuse one alternative juror.
Yes, sir.
In open court. Mr. Robinson, you may proceed with the cross-examination of this witness if he's through.
Judge.
Are you through?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
Well, go ahead then and finish up. Direct
Now,
examination. Oh, sorry, I was going to read the title.
Now,
Go ahead.
Mrs. Crawford, I want to go back for just a minute. You said earlier that you had
Okay, I'm sorry. Sunday Doodle says, what if he went out there to buy the pot and took a box of cash and they robbed him? Came up with the pot guy BS. The markings left inside that box would show the shape of its contents. I would agree, and I would agree that that's very, very plausible.
Yeah.
to crawl across the back seat in order to get out, and that your son Jeff helped you out, tried to help you out.
Hmm.
Did he get into the car and help you get out?
Yes.
After you got out of the car and he realized what was going on, were you shaky, upset?
Why, yes. I didn't know what I was doing.
Did Jeff then help you to Marlow's car?
We got in Marlow's car.
I know, but did he have to help you get in?
I don't know if he did or not.
Did you see a gun of any type when you got in the car?
No, I sure didn't.
Well, where did you go after you got in Marlow's car?
Well, we went to my son Robert's house.
Well, on your way from the cemetery and between then and the time you arrived at your son's house, did Marlow say anything about killing Ball?
No.
Did he ever say anything to you to the effect that Ball Abner had stole his pot plants?
No, he didn't.
Okay, I just said something.
Okay.
So now she don't know if Jeff got in the back and helped her out or not.
No.
That would be very
Oh
important.
no! Here she said that Jeff did get in the back and help her out. She doesn't know if he helped her into the other car.
Okay, let me see. Oh, okay. So did Jeff help you to Marlow's car? Okay.
Right.
Wait a minute.
I don't know. We didn't discuss that part of what I was supposed to say is what she's saying there.
Let me see. To crawl across the back seat in order to get out, and that your son Jeff helped you out, tried to help you out. Whatever she says is inaudible. Then he says, did he get into the car and help you get out? Yes. Okay. After you got, okay. All right. I get it now. I was confused.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The defense may ask, Your Honor.
Cross-examination by Mr. Robinson.
Mrs. Crawford, you just testified that you went up to the cemetery with Ball Abner, right?
Yes.
And Ball was driving the car,
Yes.
and you were a passenger, right?
Yes.
And at the time you heard the blast, and then the rest of it comes after that, is that right?
Oh, wait. No, we missed a part.
Hold on. Now, once Ball
Now,
was
ballpark.
parked up, say what now?
Oh, I was just
Now,
getting
once
to the spot that we missed. Sorry.
Now, once Ball parked up there, you were sitting there for just a little while. Is that right?
Yes.
And at that time, when you heard the blast, and then the rest of it comes after that, is that right?
Yeah. We were sitting in the seat, when the blast went off.
And you also just testified that you didn't see anybody with a shotgun, correct?
Right. I didn't see anybody.
And you didn't see anybody outside the car door of Ball Abner, did you?
No, I didn't.
Now, when Trooper McKnight first came to your house after all this happened, it was several hours after this happened, wasn't it?
Yes, it will.
It was early in the morning of the 11th, about 2 or 3 in the morning.
Well, my son, called McKnight, and they went down on to the cemetery first to check out about.
You were at Robert Crawford's house, is that right?
Yes, I was there.
And then Trooper McKnight came by there a little while later, didn't he, to talk to you?
Yes.
And when he came by, you told him a version of what happened, is that right?
Yes.
You told him a version of what happened.
Well, yes, but the second time I told him the truth.
And it is the second time you told him the exact truth then. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
The first time you told him that you and Ball went to the cemetery by yourself, correct?
That's what I told him.
And the reason that you were going up there was because a Ball was going to steal some marijuana. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there were no other cars, no other people that you know of at the cemetery when you were there, right?
Yes.
And after the shot, you told Trooper McKnight that you got out of the car, ran down the hill, and flagged down a car to get a ride out to Robert Crawford's house.
Right, but
Now, ma'am, just a second. Let me make sure I'm asking the questions I'm thinking about here. Well, have a chance to ask you some more questions after I finish. Now, the second time when you say you told Trooper McKnight the truth, you told him that Jeff helped you to get out of the car, right?
he opened the door.
He opened the door for you and helped you get out. And both you and Jeff then went over and got in Marlow's car, right?
Yeah, we got in Marlow's car.
And then Marlow drove you back over to Robert Crawford's.
I sat in the back seat and Jeff and Marlow in the front seat.
That's all.
Anything further?
Yes, Your Honor.
Redirect exam by Mr. Bingham.
Mrs. Crawford, exactly where in the seat were you sitting with Ball? I mean, were you over next to the passenger door? Were you sitting in the middle close to him, or just...
I was sitting about pretty close to him.
pretty close to him?
Yeah.
So how far distance would you say was between you?
Well, I couldn't say. I wouldn't know exactly.
But you were sitting probably closer to him than you were closer to the door.
Yes. See, I was just laying there resting. I took a nerve tablet and I was laying there resting.
So if you were sitting close to Ball and Ball was shot in the head, then it wouldn't have taken much, I mean with the gun, if it'd been pointing like that and it was dark and you couldn't see anybody, then probably they couldn't see in the car. So it wouldn't have taken much shifting this way that they would have hit you. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a wonder I didn't get hit. See, they's no lights at the cemetery, just woods on both sides. It's dark up there.
But whoever shot the gun, though, could have very easily hit you as opposed to Ball.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. The defense has brought up that the first time you talked to Mr. or Trooper McKnight, you told him it was just you and Ball up there and no other cars.
Yes.
Did you also tell Mr. McKnight, after you told him the second story, the story that everybody's telling now, that you say is the truth, did you tell him why you lied to him the first time?
Yes. I told him I didn't want to have my son mixed up in it. Didn't want it to come out since I was stealing pot. Whoever's pot it was. I thought they was shooting at us. Now, that's the way I see it. It was to me. And as far as I know, they're still waiting.
That's the only reason you ever told him that you hadn't told the whole truth.
Yes, I told him I didn't want my son mixed up in it.
You didn't make a statement tonight.
Judge, she's answered the question.
Judge, I'm trying to do this without refreshing her memory without saying.
You're on the verge of cross-examining your own witness.
Well, Judge, we'd ask that, be treated as hostile if she's not going to tell the truth. I mean, if defense counsel wants to bring it out, we can put...
Okay, go ahead. I'll permit you to.
The night when you came back to Robert's house, Trooper McKnight came there, and he was talking to you. And first you told him one story, and I think your son, Robert, talked to you, and then you turned around and you told Trooper McKnight that you would tell him the truth and you wanted certain things done.
Yes, I told him the truth the second time. Every word I said was true.
Did you tell him the reason that you lied the first time?
The only thing I can think of, I said I didn't want my son mixed up in something like that. That's the best of all I can remember. Anything further?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Anything further?
Nothing, Your Honor.
You may be excused, Mrs. Crawford. Call your next witness.
Okay, that was a lot.
It
Well,
That was.
was.
I need a drink.
now we're gonna go back and we're gonna look at these pictures. of the inside of the car. We're going to start with the outside of the car and work our way back. Again, here is the shell casing. This is a picture with that back window up. They're taking the picture through the back window, but the car has already been towed in somewhere. This is the back seat, y'all. What did she say was all over that back seat?
She said there was blood and brains all over it.
Do you see that?
I'm not seeing no blood or brains.
Me either. Me either.
Is this supposed
Here
to be
is
on
the
the
front
driver's
seat.
side or the passenger in the back
Okay.
seat?
Be looking out the
This-
passenger rear door in the back.
Yeah, you're looking at the only door they could get open, remember?
Did they send you a full shot of the back seat so you can see what it looked like behind where Ball was sitting to know if there was
No,
anything on the back
But you
seat?
can see where Ball was sitting in this next picture.
Okay.
Let me see here. First of all, here's steering wheel. Shot come from the front, according to the medical examiner. If you had blood to blow back, would that not be on the steering wheel? Look at the seat where she was sitting. Remember, brains got in her hair.
Well, the blowback would
You
be
can
towards the
actually
person
see
that was
where Uncle
shooting the
Ball would have
gun.
been sitting. Over here's these little jelly bean shoes she's talking about. And yeah, her purse is not in this floorboard, nor is that, because we know she grabbed it. This is Marlow's car. Here's the brown shirt they said they found in the first testimony with the officer.
I have to wonder if there's blood on that shirt. Was it Ball's?
Good question. Good question.
Yep.
Because if it was, he's the person that pulled the trigger, in my opinion, or was standing right there, because the blowback would come back towards the person with the gun. It would definitely be on them for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I mean, up here at the neck, looks like whatever that is down there is up here too. But his car looks a lot worse than Uncle Ball's does.
And do you have, so you don't have any picture of the back seat or the actual seat where Ball was sitting? To see what, because that's where
No.
that's where the blood's going to be. It's not necessarily going to be on the passenger side, according to the forensic study for a 20 gauge shotgun.
But if you look right
Flash
here,
to a
and you
head.
got to keep in mind, let me give it. You got to keep in mind that Uncle Ball wasn't just shot and removed out of his vehicle. He sat here, Dutch, right here where I'm zoomed in at. He sat here. You don't think that he would have bled more than that into that seat? Because I personally know a man that was shot in his vehicle and they had to take the seats, the carpet, and all out. And he was shot in the arm, the shoulder.
I have to
So-
send you that judicial file on the forensics of it.
But I mean, the second he was shot, he would not have stopped bleeding. Just stopped.
It
There
depends
would
on how
be
the
more
shot hit him,
blood.
though.
Regardless of how it hit him, that's just the blowback. He's going to
I don't
bleed,
think-
and that's going to go straight down.
But how
I
long
don't
was
think
he
the steering
there?
wheel would be that clean.
But how long was he there in the vehicle before somebody found him?
For over 2.5 hours
Before the coroner got there.
before Officer McKnight got there. Then the coroner showed up because he called the coroner. In total, how long did he sit there? Till almost before 4 o'clock. From 11:45. Yes,
I
no
would have
matter
to see
how
all the pictures.
blowback went, he would have still bled, and it would have still been in this seat.
Remind me to send you some of the studies that I've looked at.
Well, even with the blowback, this shot come from right around in this area. Why ain't it on the steering wheel? There's not one speck on this steering wheel.
You'll just have to read those studies because it gave reasons that I couldn't understand, because in my mind, I'm agreeing with what you're saying. But in some cases, like people don't bleed out the way you think they were going to bleed out. Strangely enough. And like, I'd have to
But
see
would
the
you?
whole seat in order to understand like the whole situation. I just wonder why they didn't send you all that. They should have taken a picture of the whole interior of the car and sent it to you.
Yeah. I mean,
Why
I
are
was
they
going to
just
say the
taking these
steering
two
wheel
angles? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are they not showing you?
I think the steering wheel would still
Exactly.
be that clean, but
Yeah, I don't
mean,
either, Michelle.
who
I don't
knows?
think it would. I don't think it would be that clean because do I got it there? No. I don't think it would be that clean. I think it would have had to at least had some blowback on that steering wheel. And if I'm being completely honest, I think that there'd be more blood in that seat, especially from somebody that had been drinking with a 0.38 alcohol level.
Are you convinced that he was murdered in that vehicle, though?
No, I'm
Because
not.
based on this, I'm not convinced that's where it happened.
no, me
I'm
either.
not. I'm not. I mean, and that's my point of it. I mean, I'm not convinced that he was murdered inside the vehicle. Actually, in my opinion, the vehicle's too clean. But even if he was, it don't look the way that they described it.
No. And even, I mean, so you want to talk about blowback? All that blowback would have gone towards the back of the vehicle, and there was no blood in the back of the vehicle
Yeah.
at all.
I mean, I know this. This is the little nuggets that I do know. I do know that Jeff had an uncle that did have a record that you pull vehicles with. Could it have been pulled up there and him shot somewhere else? I know that out of 59 pictures, only 10 of those are of the cemetery, and the rest of them are inside homes. Why? I know
That's a good question.
the gun they took a picture of is of a standard shotgun, not a sawed-off 20 gauge. If you all haven't seen all of the crime scene photos, they are on my channel, where I go through them. His daughter is actually on one of the panels that I go through them with. But in what we've read just tonight, because I don't want to put too much in here, how many times did Jean lie?
3 or 4.
Even on the stand, she was saying she went out the back door when her written statement said she went out the window.
Mm-hmm.
She left her purse, but she took her purse. It can't be both ways.
No.
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, to me, when they were at Robert's house, and that's a big one. If you found a 20 gauge in his driveway, why wasn't you questioning that? But
Yeah.
if you notice, she told one story, then she talked to her son Robert and told the whole truth. Why? Because she didn't want her other son mixed up in it. Stealing pot or murder.
Yeah. No, I think what she did was she told what she thought they told her to say. Then he had to pull her back and say, no, remember, you're supposed to say this.
Yep.
Yeah. I think one of the best attorneys that Marlow had at that time was Mr. Bingham.
How convenient.
I have read all these transcripts over and over, and the best cross examination he just gave was to her.
Yeah. Because he wouldn't believe in a thing she said.
I don't think that, I honestly think they rushed it. They wanted to close it. I find it, the things I walk away with from just reading these side by side, and keep in mind, like I said, she testified 5 people after Trooper McKnight. Guess what a witness can't do? They can't be in there when another witness is testifying.
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep in mind, she had no clue what he testified to. Then in his notes, which again in 87, to public, like citizens, regular citizens, FOIA requests wasn't a thing. In his notes, she took that purse. She took that beer because she thought it would calm her nerves. Well, she evidently took a nerve relaxer, in her words, that would knock out a doggone horse.
Yeah. And she makes sure she continues to say that.
Yeah. So, as a Kentucky state trooper, you don't get the clothes of the woman sitting beside of the victim. You don't get the clothes of her son, who is also on the cemetery, who, according to witnesses, had blood on his clothes. But you do get the beer can between his legs. What sense does that make?
None.
It does.
And why was he believing them?
But you also have to realize this was the 80s. DNA really wasn't even a thing to where they could get. Basically, all they could really do back in the 80s was match blood types and RF factors. They couldn't determine who a killer was based off anything left behind at the scene.
DNA's brought us
Then
a long
that
way.
also brings into question. Why destroy all the evidence? How many cases has been solved throughout the years because new DNA tests and stuff shows up? Why destroy that? What was the purpose of it? Why wasn't Knox County involved? There's a lot of things that we don't see in this case that we see in other cases. Now, in 1987, they were able to test for gunpowder residue because they did.
Yes. Yeah, they could do that. They could do fingerprint analysis, obviously, but like I said, determining, they can say, well, Gene and Jeff both have this blood type, but they wouldn't be able to say, okay, well, this is Gene's DNA and this is Jeff's DNA, and it looks like, Jeff has a more likelihood of being the one that did this. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. I just don't understand why they didn't keep that
Well, they
stuff
should have definitely
in
they,
case.
they should have definitely preserved all the evidence, and that in hindsight, they should have collected Gene's clothes, Jeff's clothes, everyone's clothes. But like I said back then, they may not have been thinking that those clothes would have been necessary.
I would have at least asked for them. I think so. I mean,
If he
Well,
took his
especially
shirt, why not take their clothes? They were
well,
present at the
especially when
scene.
she changed her story. I
in
mean,
my
is she going to
opinion,
change
and
her
I'm
story?
saying this from my little humble country opinion. If I had two people that had done lied to me, I would not have marked them off as being
Oh,
the person that pulled that trigger so quickly. If I
well,
was a Kentucky State police officer for all those years.
Well, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I've said from the get that I think that they got the wrong guy. I think it was Jean that pulled the damn trigger personally, and that's why she was so quick to go home and get a shower.
I think that's why she had so much on her. One thing you can see in those pictures is where she was sitting. Yeah, Jean was Ball's girlfriend at the time. Jeff's mom and Robert's mom and David's mom. Yes, she is a female. Um, yeah, I no doubt Dutch right here. I'd say she did burn those clothes.
That was my thoughts on it. You can't take something in the
And
evidence
I'm
that don't exist.
and I'm like Arctic. If we are going by who had the most blood on them and everything, and who's changed their stories, who could not probably have had a earpiece and been told that story and still told a straight story. She could not have told a straight story with a ruler.
Nope.
I think the guilt points to her. What I'm saying is in these two testimonies, in these two transcripts, especially in McKnight's, nothing tells me that Marlow should have been the first and only suspect.
She said that
I
she
don't know
had
what he
brains
heard at that
in
time.
her hair and on her face. You know how you get that in certain angles of a 20 gauge shotgun to the head is if it's close range and you're the person pulling the trigger. Close
Mm-hmm.
range, the blood isn't going to go forward to the passenger or whoever's on the other side, or necessarily forwards or backwards. Once it hits, all of the blood spatter is going to go back on the person pulling the trigger.
Yep.
And the fact that law
Let's see
enforcement didn't even there was no red flag happening, I got questions. That's just my 10
Just a
cents.
second.
Nobody
I'm
has to
looking
care.
something up.
Well, Sunday, in her own words, she said that she had brain and blood spatter all over her. But yet, they never collected her clothes, so we really can't say for sure. We're just going by what she said.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't even know. Okay, I'm looking up something right quick. Y'all give me just a second. Hmm.
I mean,
See,
I would
Sunday,
say
that's the one part of her story that I do believe, Sunday, is that she had all that over her, and that's why she was sitting there hemming and hawing, saying, "Oh, I was scared for my life. I thought I was shot too."
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it happened at the
Yeah.
cemetery, and I think she didn't want to bring Jeff into it because he probably had nothing to do with it. But since he was seen with Marlow all day long, they told her they needed to say Jeff was there, number one, for a witness. Somebody else besides her to be telling the story. I'm not even sure he was there.
Oh, I'm not sure that it happened at the cemetery. I think more and more that it happened at the house, and that's where all the pictures were taken at, was the house, not at the cemetery.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. And these are supposed to be um, crime scene photos.
Crystal, what is that picture of what you discovered underneath the couch? Because
Okay.
sorry, I had to bring it up.
Let
It
me see if
bothered
I
me.
can save it to my computer right quick. And let me see here, because I'll get everybody's opinion on it. Just a second. It is interesting. I will say that. I'll say my husband thought it was a gun.
My husband thought it looked
So
like some kind of box, like the kind that a hand pistol might come in. That's why I'm asking.
what did David think it was, Michelle?
Pistol in a holster.
That's what Stay had said. He thought. Okay, just a second. I know I cropped it down and put it in Discord. Okay. Let me see here. Copy image. Okay.
Well, that's a good point, Exotic Prairie, because maybe Jean took the pill to lay down to sleep because her nerves were all tore up because there was an altercation at the house while they was making supper and somebody got shot.
Well, very possible, I think.
I'm just
Let me
saying.
see here. Let's see.
In my opinion.
Yeah, none of us claim to be professionals. We're just going over what looks to us like sketchy photos. How do you think that is? Okay. Save image. Okay.
Didn't you say one of the pictures is in Ball's home?
Yeah, this one.
When did he go there? Because he went to Robert's house that night.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you to be 100% honest because I haven't looked at the date on when he went there and took pictures. Okay, just a second. Let me see if I got it. Okay, there we go. Lower it down. Share my screen. My entire screen. Share. Let me see. Right here. Okay. When I looked at this picture the first time, all the focuses, your center focus is right on this table. got 2 beer cans and all that. But when I zoomed in, right here, and let me see if I can do it like this. Okay. Right here where I circled. Anyways, not used to using this. I'm used to using Photoshop. Just a second. Bear with me,
When
y'all.
I first looked at this picture, Crystal, I just want to say, like, I'm looking at all the things on the table, but when I first glanced at that, I thought it was a middle leg of the couch.
But look how it goes out.
And so, is there a leg on the other end of the couch? Can you see either end of the couch in that photo?
This one right here goes straight down.
Okay. Because, see, that was when I looked at it from far away. That was my first impression. And then when you like zoomed in on it and I got to looking at it, I was like, oh shit, that's not what that is.
But see, to me, right here, all this dark part, this is like, it looks like in my opinion, it looks like one of them little holsters that you would put on your belt and the butt of a pistol. And this would not be odd for my uncle to have a gun there, especially if he was laying on this couch. And in another picture, there is a pillow on this end. But to have that gun tucked under there would not be something odd for him. Because, like I said, my dad and his brothers were all quite a bit alike. And my dad slept with a 45 under his head every night, under his pillow. And if he sat down on a couch, right here's where it would be. It would be in hand's length. And to me, this carpet looks weird. Now, talking to some people I know, that shag carpet, could it have been
yeah.
that? Could have been. But that looks like a gun, in my opinion. If not, they should have took a picture of it just a little bit more clear to see what that was. And I wonder, did they check? Did they even check? Because like I said, when you look at this picture, it's focused on this table. This right here is what they're worried about. Because all through this trial, they want to make a point of saying Uncle Bob was a drunk. Well, he was a drunk. But you know what? His toxicology report showed nothing else. He didn't smoke weed. Did he sell it? Yes. He didn't smoke it. Had no pills in his system. Alcohol and beef stew in his gut was in his system. His toxicology report, alcohol was the only thing it showed.
Wow. They did not do a very good job on this case at all. It's very disappointing.
I think it is. But I've held you all on over 2 hours, and I do apologize about that. I do want to thank everybody.
Don't apologize.
I just appreciate y'all bearing with me while I read 4 parts, and I hope I didn't mess it up too bad.
I think you done
You did
awesome.
good.
I think that was really important to hear because Jean literally contradicts herself, and they never questioned her and Jeff as a suspect, and they did not process any of their information. And Crystal's family has never gotten justice because of the laziness of the KSP.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's been
So please make sure
37
you like
years.
it and share this stream out for Crystal and her family because they deserve justice. And this is very, very important. And we appreciate everybody that's come over to support Crystal and grow in her platform because she knows what it's like to lose somebody in her family to a nefarious crime that has not even been solved. And she doesn't have any
In my
answers.
life,
They don't have closure.
thank you, Dutch. And you all, I'm not so naive that I don't know what the percentage of getting justice is 37 years later. What would I like to see happen? I'd like this case to be reopened while there's still people that's living. I'd like it to be properly investigated. But if at the very least, like I said earlier, if the internet is forever, then I want these episodes to be out there. I want people to know how this trial went, how the investigation went, and how my uncle didn't get justice. To me, it's corruption or laziness, whichever one they want to choose. But he did not get justice. He's got children that deserve answers. But I love y'all, and like I've always said, if y'all don't care, put justice for Ball Abner. I knew him by Ball too. That's all I knew him by until he was killed. But remember, it takes zero effort to be a good human being. Till next time, y'all.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away. As you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, 'cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Gotta build up of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love me? Well then baby I have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change I need today. I promise that I've never felt this way. I really hope that you will choose to stay through all the pain.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and